Well, hello and welcome back to Joellen's Kitchen. Something new today is I have a guest chef. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Okay, my name is Diana Carpenter.
Tell us what you do for a living.
All right, so I am the owner of Very Unique at the Lebanon Farmers Market.
And what do you do at Very Unique?
I make charcuterie boards and things like stuffed peppered soup, dipped strawberries, lots of different stuff.
Okay, and I have a spaghetti dinner coming up, and Diana has volunteered to make the sauce and the actual cooking of the noodles. And for my PA Dutch dish, I'm going to be making the meatballs. Now, believe it or not, this old Pennsylvania Dutch cookbook actually has spaghetti and meatballs right in here. And it's right here if your eyes are that good that you can read it. It's on the bottom corner there. And I got to tell you, I didn't expect to find the meatballs and spaghetti in here. I was prepared to use a meatloaf recipe and make it into meatballs. So, you know what? It's the simplest recipe. There's only a few ingredients. There's peppers, onions, salt, pepper, and the meat. And the meat that I have, it's a combination of beef, pork, and veal. And that is so Pennsylvania Dutch because if they had leftover meat, they ground it into the hamburger type dish, so that whether it's a meatloaf or if they made shepherd's pie, things like that. So whatever meat they had left over from butchering, they'd throw it together and they would make hamburger. So we have kind of an old-fashioned Pennsylvania Dutch hamburger. We're going to get to that later. And then we're going to make it into the balls and we're going to cook it. So Diana is going to tackle slicing the peppers. And I'm going to see how I cry with an onion. So here goes. So Diana, how many strawberries do you dip in a week, or of those boards? I can't even say the name, those fancy boards that you make. How many of those do you do in a week?
So it really depends on the week. I could make 1 or 2, or I could make 10.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, especially with wedding season right now, I tend to make a lot more.
Well, we used to have a place that specialized in dipped berries and things, but they are no longer there.
The edible arrangements.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you kind of picked up that business, I would guess.
Yeah.
Now, do you use, like, I don't even know what they're called, I've never used them, but the people that deliver, do you use that if somebody wants it delivered, or do most people pick it up, or what happens?
So I do actually have delivery. I do give that as an option, and it's just $5 as long as it's within an hour of my business.
Wow, that's very generous. An hour right now is paying, what, $15 to $20 just for one delivery. I mean, whatever you're doing at McDonald's or anything.
Yeah.
So that's a very generous delivery offer.
I try to keep it as reasonable because it's more for the gas than...
Well, I was thinking white onions don't make you cry as much as yellow onions. Am I wrong?
I don't know. I think onions always make me cry, but I've heard that if you run it under cold water...
Yeah,
first...
I've heard that too, and I didn't think. So maybe I should do that before I go any further, huh? Let's see. I just added a little cold water. Hopefully that'll keep those vapors down that would make you cry.
TikTok.
Uh-huh.
That you cut them like this instead
the
of the other way. Yeah.
Well, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I know. What would we ever have done without TikTok? And all of these great cooking ideas.
Well, actually, I don't do TikTok. I have done Pinterest. And, of course, Facebook is my go-to. I don't do Twitter so much, but I do have a Twitter account. So, yeah. I do LinkedIn. I have a Facebook page. I have a Wikipedia page. All those kinds of things. There's just so much out there, and there's always something new coming out.
That's so true. I don't do TikTok as much, but I see it on Facebook.
Ah.
That's how I sit there and I scroll through the videos when I'm getting ready for bed.
I guess. I do Facebook Live.
Yes. I love actually watching all of your Facebook Lives because if I can't make it to a meeting, I'm able to catch up and
Oh,
know
that's
what's
cool.
going on. Yeah.
I had been doing this for quite some time since COVID hit because I was here all alone all day and I needed something to pass the time. And I also had been thinking about sharing my recipes from my grandmothers and great-grandmothers and my great-aunts and all with my children and grandchildren. And I thought, well, once I'm gone, and of course, I think every senior at one time or another said, what if I don't make it through COVID, you know?
Yeah.
And so all these things weighed heavy on my mind, and I started videotaping as I made my Pennsylvania Dutch dishes. And I just thought it was for family, but YouTube was a great place to store them. And all these people said, when is the next video coming out? I couldn't believe it, but like once a week I was doing it. And when things opened up and I went back out into the community, I just couldn't do it once a week anymore. But I found once a month has worked, that I can work it into my schedule. So
I heard a lot of people do watch your videos and
I know.
they enjoy it because it's just unique. I mean, this is something that I think that we've kind of lost, the Pennsylvania Dutch cooking. I mean, you kind of get, if you go somewhere, you'll see like little things like shepherd's pie or things like that. But to actually
Corn
see,
pie.
to see like a cookbook that is from way back in the day and then see different recipes, I definitely enjoy it.
Well, thank you. And the recipe books that I started with, the cookbooks, were actually handwritten in little notebooks or in scraps of paper from my great aunts and grandmas and stuff. And I was running out of those, and two people gave me Pennsylvania Dutch cookbooks. They were enjoying it so much they wanted to contribute. And then I think I had one that I found from one of my grandparents. So now I have three, but one is misplaced, so I'm down to two. So it's good I have more than one to keep going. I have about, I think we calculated 12 pounds of hamburger. So I'm going to put some in each bowl so we can mix it without making it overflow. Hey, it didn't make me cry. That water trick must work. Okay, first we're going to, at least I always do, I spray Pam into the bottoms and around the sides of my baking dishes. If nothing else, it makes them easier to clean.
Yeah.
So I enjoy doing that. We're going to be making a lot of meatballs, and also not everybody likes peppers. That includes me. I'm not a pepper person. But the original Pennsylvania Dutch recipe calls for peppers. So Diana, you're going to make the pepper,
Okay.
since you made those. And they want you to put 2 tablespoons of butter in the center, and that'll melt and go out. And
Luckily.
you can, you can fry them on top of the stove. But because we're making such a quantity, I thought baking them would be our smart bet.
Should I cut it up and put
That's entirely up to you. But then you're going to lay your peppers on top of that. And that way they will get cooked, and your meatballs will then go on top of that. They have you making the meatballs and the peppers together. The onions go into the hamburger.
Okay.
And again, I did not overdo the onions because there are just people that don't like onions. Yeah.
I like the colors.
Yeah, the colors are nice. Okay, and then we can set these out of the way because we have them ready to go. We can drop meatballs in as we go. If you want to bring your dish front.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going to get like 6. Now, we want to add salt and pepper. Now, I only have, see, I guess I have about 3 pounds of hamburger in mine. So just, whoa, I got enough for you too. Can I share?
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. One of the things the Pennsylvania Dutch rarely did was use a measuring spoon. It was all in the hand. It was the feel. It was the look. And so to that tradition, I at least do the salt and pepper that way.
I must be Pennsylvania Dutch then, because that's how I go.
Is that how you do it, Joe? Okay, all right. And just use your judgment, what you think. I don't overdo the spices because people can always add more, but we do want some, and it certainly helps the taste.
Okay.
You good? All right, now, it's up to you if you want to go right to it with your hands, or if you want to start by chopping it up with this spatula. It's your choice. Of course, if we have too much, we'll have to get a third bowl, that's all. But that's it, meat and salt and pepper, and then of course the green and red peppers in the bottom of the one container. I think we'll probably end up feeding about 50 people at the spaghetti dinner the way it looks. People are signing up, and if you just tuned in, you're more than welcome to join us. It will be Tuesday night, September the 26th. It will be from 4 to 6 p.m. called Fairland Brethren in Christ Church at the Giant in Cleona. I go there, and it will be in, we've rented the kitchen and 2 rooms for serving. So we'll have tables and chairs set up, or if you're on your way home and you have a big night planned, you're welcome to bring some containers along to go, and we will make your spaghetti to go. Not a problem. So whichever suits your fancy, we'll make it happen. Again, Tuesday night, September the 26th from 4 to 6 p.m. That's 2023, in case you're watching this in the future, 2023. And yeah, it's going to be lots of fun. Hey, Diana, you know, saying the year made me think, did you know that in 3 years, America will be 250 years old?
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. At the commissioners' meeting this past week, we actually passed a proclamation to join with all the other counties in the state of Pennsylvania in order to celebrate. It's like the sesquicentennial or something like that. I don't know if I got that right. But they'll be coming to Lebanon in some form. And I think they're making Liberty Bells again, because so many of the Liberty Bells that were handed out at a previous centennial or something, or bicentennial, whichever it was, got melted because it was during World War I and II, I guess. Oh. And they needed the metal, so a lot of them got melted down for ammunition and things like that. So I think they're going to try again. All right, I'm going to start making a meatball. See how it goes, Diana. If our little measuring device here is going, I'm probably going to squish them in and then get them out. Still might have to, but it's kind of a proportional thing for serving, I guess. So everybody gets the same size, relatively same size meatball. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that's a good size.
And stick them in there. Yeah, we'll start filling up our spaghetti plates here. Well, I don't think that these are exceptionally hard, and probably everybody already makes their meatballs very close to this. But I was just so astounded and happy at the same time to find out that the Pennsylvania Dutch actually had a meatball recipe. Yeah. I never expected that. I was thinking, oh, it's all Italian, right? Nope.
Yeah.
We got a little bit of everything going on here. Well, like I said, it was beef and pork and veal. So that means it's pig,
yeah,
cow. Well, actually a big cow and a little cow.
Yeah.
So once we find out how many meatballs we're making, we'll know how many we can give everybody, right?
Yeah.
If we're figuring on 50 people and we have 100 meatballs, that's 2. If we have 150 meatballs, they get 3, right?
Yeah.
Or they might, some people don't like meatballs, so
that's true.
That's a choice too. And first thing we did when we got married was I said, let's see if we can round up some used furniture that nobody wants, and I'll reupholster it so it all matches.
Oh.
Because I was a bit of a seamstress in high school, and I had a really good teacher, and she encouraged me and all. And so anyhow, yeah, we found his mother donated a rocking chair. My parents donated a sectional couch. Believe it or not, back then they had a sectional couch, 2-piece. And I got this red, white, and blue material. Of course I liked red, white, and blue back then. And I went about making it, made the piping and everything, you know, and sewed it all together, stapled it to the bottom. And my husband was fascinated, and I didn't, you know, with the lifting and moving the chairs around. Well, he stuck with me at that time, and we kind of did it together. I did the physical sewing, but he got into, staple, you know, I can do this. And so he actually helped upholster these. And little did he know, and I think maybe in the back of his mind, he actually may have even verbalized at one point, I wonder if I could do my own car seats, you know, learn to upholster for my car seat. So I think his motivation in helping me was to learn to upholster, and I just did it because I knew how to sew. And so when he saw what I did, he said, I can do this. So he now has a sewing machine in the garage, and he actually upholsters his own vehicles. Not only does he do the seats, he'll do the headliners and the door panels and things like that.
Really?
But it's all the same premise. And then like on door panels, on the old doors, they're flat and they barely have any curves. So it's just a matter of wrapping it around to the back and fastening it. Sometimes it's gluing, whatever. I had the body shop, but he learned to paint with that.
So did you were the one who wanted the body shop, or?
Well, actually, we lived in Lickdale. We built an earth home. It burned.
Earth home?
Yeah. Well, the first house was a Miles home. It was like a kit home. They figured out they gave you the blueprints and figured out all the wood you need and nails. They shipped everything to you on a big truck. And
this is how long ago?
Oh, well, let's see. We're married more than 50 years. We were married in 1970, so it's 53 years we're married. So
wow.
And my father said, don't go into rent, you'll never get out of it. He said, I'll sign a note for you. So our first house was $8,000. Go figure. Doubled my money when I sold it, because we fixed it up some. $16,000. The next house we bought was $20,000. Doubled our money, sold it for $40,000. And actually, I had a business there. It was called. He had a Rick's Garage, and I had a little grocery store. I did notary and tax work on the side. Yeah.
Wow.
And then we ended up. I bought the garage out on 25th and Cumberland Street, and I had a boarding house there, and so we had a tenant or two. And we kept the one room for ourselves, and we sold our house in Lickdale. And then that burned. You know, well, I can't remember the sequence of everything, but the bottom line is, along the way, we found this house on the market, and it was condemned. We ripped out the cabinets and the carpeting and the linoleum and everything, and it was down to the bare. And then we sanded all the floors. And this was a farmhouse on the west end of Coleman Park, what we know is Coleman Park now. But the Colemans and Brocks lived up there. And this is Guilford Street. Simeon Guilford was an engineer on the Union Canal. And the next street is called Union Canal Drive up there. That's actually where the Union Canal ran. So that's underneath the street. Wow. Yeah. And that's the divider between North Lebanon and West Lebanon.
Okay.
All right. So Robert Coleman, and there was a whole bunch of them, but anyhow, the last or the first on this end, on the west end of what we call the park now, you could see down over the hill what was going on, but this was the West Gatekeeper's house. Oh. If you look at the lattice work on the front porch, it matches the lattice work on the north house. And also there is a south house that has, like, it's a double wide. I think that workers of the canal lived there. So you can actually pick out the lattice work and match it to the gatehouses. The only one that's different is the east end. It's more Victorian looking, and that's still there. That's before you leave. And the lattice work on the north gatehouse is actually covered, but it's right next to the entrance to Coleman's Park. So this house, while it's built in the late 1800s is so solid and so square. Whoever built it knew what they were doing. So they would bring master craftsmen from, like the English, I think, had the gardens that they'd have an English master gardener, and from France they'd bring a sculptor and they'd do unique sculptures. And when it was done, they often used their own children's faces for those sculptures. And once that particular sculpture was done, or that child, they were satisfied, they didn't want anymore, they'd break those molds so nobody else can make them. So if you have a Coleman sculpture, you've got probably an original piece of art that they brought, a sculptor here. And of course they had Italian bricklayers and stone cutters and things like that. So there is just so much history and immigration. But they would actually go and travel through Europe in the winter months especially, and they bring home not only the things that they bought to furnish their many mansions, but also they'd say, hey, you want to come to America and work for me? And yeah, they had presidents and everything visiting. So, and Milton Hershey visited up there. Yeah, all kinds of people of notoriety, shall we say. So it was kind of a cool place. And from the canal, there would be things that come down from Schuylkill County, like the coal and some additional timber. We're going to need another dish to bake in, aren't we? Yeah, we'll get one then. And then right over here, let's see, this is 23rd, so it would be 22nd Street is beside Coleman Park. Right there is where the big train station with a roundhouse was and stuff.
Oh.
Some of that is still standing. Yeah. It's used for industrial. And so this particular servants' quarters is what it was. But the farmer who ran this also was a driver for the Colemans and Brocks, and he had 2 horses and 2 buggies in the barn out back. And the lady who lived across the street when we bought this place was like in her 90s, and it was her grandfather who worked for the Colemans and Brocks.
That's probably, I love always hearing your stories because you really like history. And
I love local history especially.
Yeah. I always, every place that I've bumped into you, you've always known a lot of the history. And I've always appreciated that because I think it's very easy to lose history. And I like that you document it also.
Well, speaking of which, what I noticed early on is that I think it's great that history has been documented for centuries and centuries, but it's usually, believe it or not, men's history. And so when the Commission for Women came along, I'm like, wow, here we get to document some women's history. So we have a little catching up to do. But on the other hand, what a great way for our daughters and granddaughters to know about what it took for them to be able to vote, much less anything else. And I have been videotaping women's interviews as well as regular, I say regular, shall I say structure type historical stuff. But I interview men as well. I mean, I don't discriminate. But on the other hand, it's just neat to be able to include women in the process. Yeah. That didn't used to happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's a part of history, though, that it didn't
used
to happen.
I know.
Yeah. And I definitely, in my generation, I appreciate all that women have done. I mean, like my grandmother always votes because she remembers fighting for that right.
Well, the other thing I remember when I first started running for office, the farm women invited me to come talk to them. And that was pretty cool. And just listening to their stories, I didn't get to tape those. I wasn't quite there yet. But I think that part helped me to understand how important it was to capture it. And what I learned from those ladies was like a a club, you know, that they had, but I don't know that they called it a club. They just called it Farm Women. And Catherine was probably the head back then. But listening to their stories, the one lady said, "Oh yeah, my husband's the farmer, but I'm out there working in the barn with him, alongside him all day or whatever. But we had a long lane for a reason. When we saw the dust flying, we knew somebody was coming down that lane. And my husband would say, 'I guess it's time to run in the house, dear.'" So she'd go in the house so that he wasn't embarrassed that she was out there working as hard as him. And it was at that point I realized that women have always been in the background, and that they did it willingly. I mean, that was the culture at the time, but they were just amazing the way they shared their stories, and they were laughing and they were so funny. But I came away from that meeting with a life lesson about the importance of documenting women's history as well. And so that kind of became a little bit of another passion that I developed later in life, and it was fun. I still do it as much as I can. If we fill this, we'll have 160 meatballs. So yeah, we're going to give 3 to everybody if they want them.
Okay.
This is called a Windcraft. It is a gas stove. And I keep it turned off just so that if there's ever a leak, it doesn't build up pressure or release gas, and I guess that can be toxic. So
Okay.
keep my Bic here. Oven is marked. The rest are just in the vicinity. So I turn that on. Open this. Get this going. And poof, we got it now. I don't know if you want to look down in there.
Oh, cool.
The flame can go down or up. And there is no real degree kind of thermostat here. The lower the flame, the slower it cooks. It's that easy.
So is this your only oven?
Yes. It's not instantaneous, but compared to an electric oven, it heats up really quick. So, at this point, if you want to bring 2 of those dishes or pans of meatballs, you can bring 1 at a time. Oh, you're good. And we're going to stick 1 off to the side on the top, and 1 off to the side on the bottom. And okay, Diana, our meatballs are out of the oven. They were in there about 30 minutes on a kind of a low. I would estimate no more than 350, but even 300. I think the slower you cook them,
The better.
the
They
better,
smell
the more
really
moist
yummy.
they are. So let's just get each of us a meatball. Now we don't want to go hog wild because we want to save them for the spaghetti dinner, but I think we have to try our work, don't you?
I agree.
I'm going to lay that over there so it doesn't flop all around. Well, they look lovely, don't they? Now they're pretty hot, so be careful.
Okay. These are really good.
Nice job. We're going to have spaghetti and meatballs again on Tuesday, September the 26th, 2023, from 4 to 6 at Fairland Church in Cleona. It's right along Route 422 next to Giant. Thank you for joining us, and happy Pennsylvania Dutch cooking.